My former spouse left me a year and a half ago for a man who was married to her best friend from high school. Quite the friend indeed. We had been together for 20 years and shared what I believed were 2 children. I recently learned that my 6-year-old daughter is not biologically mine, but instead his. She had been aware of this from the beginning of her pregnancy, but chose to keep it hidden from me. Despite this, my name is still on the birth certificate. I am determined to fight for custody of my daughter, as she has been a part of my life, and her birth certificate is a legally binding document. Even though she may not be biologically related to me, she is still my daughter. The discovery of the affair and my daughter's true paternity was a devastating blow. Her response to my question was that it was him, as he was able to quickly recover after sex and engage in intimate acts again. It is clear that this affair had been going on for quite some time. Despite working 2 jobs to support her education and enabling her to stay home with our children, my ex-wife betrayed me. I sacrificed my own aspirations and music career to prioritize hers and our family. My children have always been my top priority. However, my ex-partner has always been emotionally distant, suffering from bipolar disorder, which made life challenging. Her outbursts and abusive behavior took a toll on me, but I believed that it was beyond her control. As it turns out, my assumption was incorrect. On numerous occasions, my children had heard my ex-wife speak ill of me. Despite feeling hurt and not wanting my kids to witness this, I refrained from retaliating. Towards the end, my ex-partner became enraged because I had not taken out the trash. When I returned home, my son watched in horror as I reminded her that our son would always remember this incident. She released me from the relationship as a result. Looking back, I should have left sooner. This realization has come to me now. Had it not been for my children, I would have contemplated leaving. The thought of having a broken home for them was unbearable, so I clung to the hope that my wife would revert to the woman I had fallen in love with. It's clear to me now that those days are long gone and have been for years. When the truth came out, my wife met with her friend with whose husband she was cheating and confessed without remorse. "Yes, it's true. No, I'm not sorry." Her friend relayed this information to me. After my wife left, she took our children and moved in with him into an apartment right behind ours. Despite the circumstances, I still harbored the hope that she would realize that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. She was aware that he had cheated on his wife multiple times, yet she continued to stay with him. During the first year, I patiently waited for her return. She held onto the apartment keys, which made me assume that she was still holding on to the possibility of coming back home. However, towards the end of that year, they resumed their cruel behavior, with him constantly showing up at the bus stop. While I was helping my children board the bus for school, he remarked, "I've come to see my daughter off to school, not yours, mine." I then questioned him, "If that's the case, why were you content for the past 5 years to let me raise her as mine? Where were you? Why is my name on the certificate as her father instead of yours?" My words nearly provoked him to hit me, and it led to a drunken visit by both of them at the end of the night. He had arrived to fight my ex, but then proceeded to make everything public by boasting about their relationship on Facebook. Our mutual friends were appalled by the situation and contacted both me and his wife. I made sure to collect all the screenshots I could as evidence. Despite the upcoming divorce, my ex-wife seems unconcerned about the predicament she has created for herself. However, it doesn't matter as I already have the results of the paternity test. Towards the end, I became self-destructive, constantly questioning what I could have done differently or better. She blamed me for not being present enough, but if I hadn't been working 2 jobs, we wouldn't have been able to make ends meet. Upon returning home, I refrained from cleaning as I was exhausted. My wife began screaming at me about the trash, despite our children having scribbled on the walls, pulled down blinds, and created holes in the wall under her supervision. Failing to take out the trash after working a 16-hour shift was deemed a severe offense. The worst part was that I was desperate to reunite with my family, to the point where I began believing that it was my fault. It took me a while to comprehend the truth of the matter. Everything changed when my brother came into the picture. He was determined to have me join his band, despite my initial refusal. At his urging, I met the other members, and that proved to be a turning point for me. Although I initially refused, I eventually formed a bond with them and even started seeing a friend of the rhythm guitarist. Falling in love with her was a breath of fresh air compared to my previous toxic relationship, which often resulted in screaming matches and physical violence. Meanwhile, my ex-wife had access to our apartment despite our breakup. On occasion, she would barge into our apartment unannounced to drop off items for the kids. The first time she did so, while my new girlfriend was present, it didn't go smoothly. Later that evening, she called me to interrogate me about my girlfriend's identity and why she was in our home. It was satisfying to inform my ex that my girlfriend was none of her concern. Despite moving on and living with someone else, my ex has become increasingly unstable in recent months and has taken to stalking my girlfriend. My ex had sent a Facebook friend request to my girlfriend and insisted that she accept it. When my girlfriend declined, my ex called me in a rage, demanding that I force her to accept. She claimed that she needed to see the kind of person my girlfriend was, as I was involving our children in the relationship. My girlfriend took the phone from me and calmly explained that she had no obligation to add my ex as a friend. Any communication regarding the children could be done through messaging or phone calls. My girlfriend firmly stated that my ex had no right to access our private life, friends, or family, as she was not a part of her personal life. My ex was not pleased with this response, and my girlfriend soon received a flood of friend requests from people who were friends with my ex. To make matters worse, my ex began to regularly enter my home when I was not there to snoop around. I was on the phone with my girlfriend, who was staying with me while I was at work, and could hear my ex walking in. And when my girlfriend confronted my ex, she inquired about her reason for being there. My ex explained that she wanted to check the amount of milk in my fridge for when the kids visited. My girlfriend assured her that we had everything under control, and my ex promptly left. Upon my return home, I demanded that my ex return the apartment key since she no longer lived there. Instead, she took my son's keys and made copies for herself. As my lease came to an end, my girlfriend suggested that we move in together in order to distance ourselves from my ex. However, my ex did everything in her power to prevent this from happening. She even went as far as calling the police and falsely accusing me of taking her belongings. When asked to identify what belonged to her, she was unable to name anything. Currently, we have the kids every other weekend, but they informed me that my ex forbids them from discussing their time with me, as she doesn't want to hear about it. However, this rule didn't last long, and now she pumps my children for every detail she can get. I'm sure it stems from jealousy, as my girlfriend and I live on the beach and she is quite well off. When we have the kids, we often take walks to the boardwalk for rides and beach playtime, or visit the aquarium. If they brought home prizes, my ex would throw them away. Recently, I noticed that my ex-wife started dressing and styling herself similarly to my girlfriend during the last few times she dropped off our children. She dyed and cut her hair to match hers. Additionally, whenever we did anything with the kids, my ex would try to replicate it the following week. For instance, if we went to the beach or the zoo, she would take them there as well. In fact, my son even requested to live with us last week because he believes that my ex is unstable. I plan to use all of this in court, as it's clear that my ex's behavior is becoming increasingly erratic. The other night, she began sending me unsolicited news via text message, which was quite bizarre. My girlfriend was sitting next to me when these messages started rolling in, and I immediately became defensive. I assured her that I didn't ask for them and that my ex and I were not communicating in that way. In fact, I even offered my phone to my girlfriend to review for herself. After looking through the pictures, my girlfriend requested my ex's number. My girlfriend requested my ex's number so that she could send her own nudes back and show her how it's done. I was taken aback by this and called my ex to ask what she was thinking. I informed her that my girlfriend was sitting right next to me and had seen the messages and was understandably angry. My ex attempted to explain that she meant to send the messages to someone else. However, my girlfriend pointed out that my name was at the end of the alphabet, while her boyfriend's name was at the other end. She then asked my ex who the new guy was since the message was meant for someone else. My ex hung up the phone. I'm completely perplexed by the game my ex is playing. It's also insane to me. Additionally, I want to clarify that my girlfriend didn't reciprocate by sending her own nude photos. She simply made a quip in response to my ex's actions, suggesting that my ex should take pointers from her because the photos my ex sent were just shots of her with her shirt off, making silly faces at herself in the mirror with her phone in hand. My girlfriend was only poking fun at my ex's lack of creativity. I no longer reside in the apartment I once shared with my wife. Instead, I have relocated to my girlfriend's place. This decision was made due to the fact that even after I took back my keys from my ex, she continued to use my son's keys to gain entry. Fortunately, she does not have access to my new residence, and my children do not possess keys to it. However, the ongoing situation has led me to fight for custody of my kids. It's a challenging process, especially since I'm not my daughter's biological father. Nonetheless, I'm using the fact that my name is listed on her birth certificate as the father in my fight for custody. I have gained parental rights to my daughter by virtue of my name being on her birth certificate. However, I'm concerned that my ex is not taking her prescribed medication. To ensure that my children are not being abused, I check them for any signs of bruises. Unfortunately, my ex's behavior has escalated to physical altercations with her boyfriend. He punched a hole in the wall after she raised her hand to him, and he made it clear that he will fight back if she does it again. As for an update, I recently received an angry text from my ex on a Saturday night, which I find disappointing. My ex sent me a message expressing her hopes that I'm happy for winning. Although I knew better, I still asked her what was bothering her. She responded with an incoherent statement and then went on to instruct me to gloat, but 10 times more because of something that happened to her. She also accused me of involvement in the incident. When I asked her to clarify my supposed involvement, she evaded the question and instead launched into a rant about how all men are untrustworthy and behave like pigs. Based on what I observed, I gathered two things. Firstly, she appeared to be intoxicated again. Secondly, it seemed that the reason she left her previous partner was that he had cheated on her. I opted not to say anything when she was in that state, as any response would result in an argument. Instead, I read her texts and felt that she deserved what she got. She left me for my friend, who was married and had already cheated on his wife 3 times, with her being the third. When I confronted her about this during our breakup, she responded by telling me that I knew what I was getting into. I suppose she believed that she was the solution to his unfaithful behavior. When my ex ran out of insults to hurl at me, she redirected her attack towards my girlfriend, claiming that she's unattractive and that I could have chosen anyone else to replace her. However, my girlfriend is a stunning individual both in terms of her inner and outer beauty. My ex is incredibly envious of my new relationship and, as I've mentioned in previous posts, has resorted to stalking my girlfriend and attempting to alter her appearance to resemble her own. The verbal assault persisted as my ex accused me of not really loving my new girlfriend. According to her, it was impossible for me to have fallen in love with the first woman I slept with after our breakup. My ex and I had been separated for a year before I met my current girlfriend. It took me a while to open up and trust someone new, and the trust I have in my girlfriend was earned through her actions. My ex went on to assert that the only reason I love my new girlfriend is that I lost my apartment, and I'm simply trying to kiss up to her for a place to live. According to my ex, my love for my new girlfriend is only valid because I'm now homeless. However, this is not the case, as I had my own apartment across the street from my ex-wife, who chose to remain in the same complex to constantly remind me that she left me for my friend. When my lease ended, I made the decision to move in with my girlfriend and relocate my job to be closer to her. Despite my ex's attempts to provoke a confrontation, I refused to engage with her, as I found her attacks to be increasingly foolish and immature. As she spoke, she apologized to me and claimed that she wasn't good enough for me. I felt the urge to confront her and shout that it wasn't me who wasn't good enough for her. She was the one who left me for someone else, a married man who had a history of cheating on his wife. It was clear who the real loser was in that situation. And then, she continued to attack my current girlfriend, insisting that I really wanted to be with my ex instead. She went on to say that my current girlfriend was no match for her and couldn't compare. I reached my limit and requested that she reach out to me again once she had sobered up and improved her behavior. I turned off my phone and took a break. Later, when my girlfriend returned home, I knew she would be upset, so I warned her before handing her my phone to read the messages. As she read through them, she couldn't help but burst into laughter and concluded that it appeared as though my ex had cheated. I mentioned that it appeared that way and attempted to reassure my girlfriend, worried that my ex's offensive remarks might make her doubt me. However, my girlfriend was unfazed and shared that my ex exhibited full-blown narcissistic behavior when she was under the influence. She explained that my ex was upset because she was unable to turn to me for revenge sex as a means of getting back at her affair partner. Following that incident, I never heard from my ex again. My assumption is that she likely reflected on those messages and felt foolish for her actions. Plus, I'm willing to bet that she's back with her lover because she can't bear to be on her own.